Welcome to An Honorable Profession, a podcast focused on incredibly talented people who've dedicated themselves to public service when their country and communities needed it the most. I'm Ryan Coonerty. Along with Debbie Cox Bolton of the New Deal, I'm lucky enough to be your co-host. The New Deal is an organization that supports the next generation of American leaders. Check out newdealleaders.org to find out more.
I'm here with Daniel Ayers and Quinn Ray from hometown Holler, coming to you live from Raleigh, North Carolina, where we are gathering with the NewDEAL Forum and elected officials across the country. And so excited to talk to you guys about your venture. Feels like your podcast has really caught fire in North Carolina, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm really curious on kind of how you got into this, what your goal was, and how it's grown.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a wild ride to how we've gotten here. We've been around for a little over 2 years now. I mean, it started out with Daniel and I just being friends. I was helping his dad. His dad was running for House District 64, running for office. And so Daniel became his campaign manager, and we just found ourselves crossing each other's paths quite often. And so then it ended up being on the back porch, drinking beers, smoking cigars, and just talking about what we all talk about, politics, the state of the world. And locally, we had toxic mold in our schools. And so our schools in 2023 had to delay opening for 2 to 3 weeks. And we just had a news desert where we were at, as many cities across North Carolina are seeing and across the nation. And it just wasn't getting to the people how serious this situation was. So as two mediocre white guys, we were like, we're going to talk into microphones.
Right. That's exactly right.
I mean, it really was. And so I used to tour around with the band for years as their tour manager, a sound and lighting guy. And I started calling people that I knew. I was like, do you have any extra equipment? I think we want to start doing a podcast. And we found some equipment and lugged it over to Daniel's house on his kitchen table and just started jabbing.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about local news, but what were you hearing from feeling yourselves or hearing from your friends and neighbors and colleagues that was missing that they wanted to be hearing that they weren't?
Well, so it's interesting, like Quinn said, we started as a very local outfit. I mean, like talking about county schools, right? So very niche. And I think both of us thought this will be a great thing for friends and family to tune into, maybe some of the real local political nerds, maybe somebody on the city council might catch an episode. But we started getting messages from across North Carolina almost instantly. And what we found is it's really interesting. North Carolina is like a microcosm of the United States. We've got rural, we've got urban, we've got suburban. We have all different kinds of folks from every possible background and identity you can imagine. So we really are a microcosm of the broader U.S. But we're from Alamance County, and Alamance County is a microcosm of North Carolina. So we're a microcosm of a state that's a microcosm of the nation. And people across North Carolina would stumble upon our content and would see their hometown in our hometown. And so we would start getting DMs and comments, people saying, well, y'all are talking about schools. Well, we had, our bus drivers aren't getting paid enough here, or our schools had to be delayed because of this structural issue. So that is what got us both thinking, like, we're onto something here. And while we're telling stories that are from our hometown, this is much bigger than our hometown. It's everybody's hometown.
Yeah. You guys were talking about the fact that you were on the campaign for your dad. What were you doing before that?
Yeah.
So you didn't start in politics.
No, neither of us started in politics.
Yeah.
So me personally, I was a teacher. So I taught middle school and high school, mainly middle school, history and civics.
Yeah.
And then Quinn's
well, I was an elected official. I got elected first in 2019. So I've been on city council for going on 7 years now. And that's when it kind of got me more into the politics, the local politics. That's how I ended up finding myself to his dad's campaign. But yeah, I was working in restaurants, selling insurance. And like I said earlier, I was touring the country with the band and really doing that gig. But we always had a sense, I felt like once we met, that we had a due diligence, or we wanted to do our due diligence by informing folks, because people would come, we would always vote, we always just peruse the news, right? We were always civically engaged. I was also a history major, and so it was always something that had that, where people would be like, who are you voting for this election? What are you doing? And so we felt like we had a big enough voice to at least make grandma proud that we were on the internet.
I love that. I love that. But you're getting you're getting guests from all over the state, all
It's
levels
crazy.
of government. It's awesome. What are you finding that people want to talk about? Like when you do shows, what are people responding to the most?
So I think one of the things that's been really has helped us gain traction and has helped us build the following that we've been privileged to enjoy is Quinn and I very much view ourselves as students in this.
Mm-hmm.
We are not subject matter experts in almost anything we talk about unless
He
we're
speaks
talking about
for
beer.
himself.
Well, so, if we're talking about pernicious IPAs,
we got this.
We got that. We'll be the CNN contributor for that panel. But we bring in folks that we want to learn from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And folks that we find interesting.
Yeah.
And that runs the gambit from, tomorrow we're going to interview one of North Carolina's premier drag artists and to talk about drag.
Yeah.
Drag's not really my thing, but I like to know a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
We've had the privilege of interviewing like Heather Cox Richardson twice now. And there's so much we can learn from her.
Yeah.
And she's been gracious enough to even talk about North Carolina history.
Oh,
So
I love
take her
that.
national voice and bring it down to a North Carolina level. And we really try to do that is any story that we tell it through the lens of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's anything wrong with keeping things on a national level, but there's a lot of that already. And so we really want to bring things back, as I was saying earlier, to the hometown so that people feel a proximity to the story, a real closeness
and
to
as
it.
you know, Debbie, you're here at the NewDEAL Forum.
Mm-hmm.
Government from the federal, state, and local level, you can make a lot of change. People will talk about the federal level, my vote doesn't matter. But boy, does it matter at a local level.
Definitely.
So if you can, as Daniel said, bring it down to them to a proximity that, man, my vote actually can make a difference. For instance, here in North Carolina, it went national. The Allison Rigg, Jefferson Griffin case, right? Few hundred votes. Prior to that, Sherry Beasley lost the U.S. Senate race by 400 votes.
Or like I was up in Rockingham County on the primary night. We had Senator Phil Berger, who's a Republican Senate leader here in North Carolina. When I left that watch party, I was doing some kind of reporting up there for his opponent. Phil Berger was down by 2 points, by two votes.
Two votes.
He ended up losing that election, I think, by like 27
Oh
votes.
God. Yeah.
And he's the most powerful politician in North Carolina and has been for 15 years, spent $10 million on that race and lost by 20 some votes.
Yeah.
So I think that's, we're trying to show folks that, look, people who want you to believe that your vote doesn't matter, like it just ain't so.
No, that's
it's just
right.
not true.
Well, and also trying to let folks know politics, it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to tune into it.
Yeah.
It's a chore and a choice for people to read tomorrow's headlines, to read, yesterday's paper to see what happened. So we try to do it for them and give them that. But also we bring culture. We're Tar Heel Life in a Shot Glass. We had Bob Crawford from the Avett Brothers come on. We've had musical guests, Grammy-nominated artists that live in Raleigh that came down to our studio to play some songs and just talk about what it's like to be a recording artist in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So when we're trying to reach folks, we can't just reach them with the sky is falling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We reach them by saying, man, this cheesecake and Mama's banana pudding is delicious.
Yes.
But also, Mama's banana pudding is not going to be around because we got tariffs on these bananas, right? So really trying to make it work.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that. So, like, how do you feel like, it's so important, right? Where this whole media landscape is blowing up in terms of just different ways people are getting their information. It sounds like you guys have really been able to connect with your audience in North Carolina. And, there's people who are probably already interested in politics, but it sounds like you're attracting a lot of people through the banana pie that weren't even there for the politics. So what do you find most helpful in terms of like capturing people's attention that maybe weren't tuning into politics before?
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
I think one of the things we're always trying to do, and I'm not even saying we do this all the time or that we do it well any of the time, but one of the things we're trying to do is inform, entertain, but also inspire. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing. We do want people to have fun while they're watching or to feel amused, I'll say that. And we want people to learn something. But I think the thing we're always trying to do is get people to take that next step, whether that next step is I'm going to have a conversation with a coworker, or I'm going to even reshare a post that I normally don't. I normally share cat memes. Well, but this, they're talking about local water pollution, PFAS. That's really important. I'm going to take that next step and share that. So I think that is that three-pronged approach is kind of key to our vibe, and trying to get folks to not just tell them what's happening, or share with them how we feel about it, but let them know that like, hey, like we can have nice things, you know, and what that takes in a democracy like this is everybody's got to be a player. So I think that is what a lot of folks have come to know and value and the stories we tell.
Well, what I love about that is also like you're almost giving people permission to engage.
Right, exactly.
I feel like a lot of people feel like it's very daunting.
Absolutely.
It's scary. People are mean to each other.
Sure.
Right. So like, I might care about something a lot, but like I don't want to put myself out there and get knocked down for whatever. So like to be able to say, hey, this is important. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that actually.
Well, and I think, we made a commitment to ourselves and to each other to be authentic. And I think a lot of people say that, like authenticity is authentic. This is my George Bush moment. I fumble a lot. But we say that a lot, right? We want to be original. We like authentic people.
Yeah.
But we really do that. We really don't put on a character. I think a lot of people, when that camera comes on, right? Like you sit up more, you fix your tie. And I mean, we're aware of cameras there, and it just has taken these 2 years of getting there. But we are who we are, and I think people see that and feel that. I'm a little yin to, I guess, Daniel's yang. I cuss a little bit more. I do a little bit of this and that, but it works. I'm like the John Madden talking of the
Well, I do think that's another part of it. It would be impossible to do this as a one-man show.
That's interesting.
It is exponentially better to do anything with a good partner. And
I like
and
that.
especially somebody who, I think Quinn alluded to it, I think we balance each other really well. I mean, you can see how we're dressed today. We didn't coordinate this, but there's always kind of a fire and ice.
There's something happening there.
I like it. Maybe I'm just going to throw you. First of all, actually back on authenticity. I think I couldn't agree more. And actually, as our work with elected officials, we're often talking to them about how to be authentic, because I think that, and it's not their fault. Let me say it that way, because basically, I think you have this idea of what you think a politician is supposed to be.
Sure.
You're supposed to show up a certain way.
We've all seen Gavin Newsom at the press conference.
Okay, well, he's my governor. That's my governor. But yeah, I mean, there's a sense that you think you have a vision of that, and so I think to give people permission to be authentic is really important in politics today, because obviously that's what people are looking for.
I think that's the key word there, is the permission to be, because you can't just be it, right? You can't you can learn to try to turn the existential stuff off, but if you're trying to be something, then you're not authentic. But the permission to just be yourself. And that was one of the first things when I got elected to city council. I was working in restaurants. Like, man, some days I'm going to show up not in a blazer. And I go to fish shows, so you can think about what you want of it.
The world's most impressive tie-dye collection. It's
how it just threw it out the window of like, people are going to have an idea of what they have with me. If I try to appease everybody, we're going to lose. And so we just like do what we do. That.
Well, so this is my ending curveball question then. What is your advice to elected officials, whether they're coming on your show or they're going on another podcast, besides just be authentic, which is that could be it, and that's probably that's enough. And you can't tell people how to be authentic. That's the whole point. But what is your advice to people to break through?
To break through. We went up with Duke Law to the Bolton Center and talked with a bunch of federal judges and retired lawyers, and they were wanting to break through onto getting on social media. Sometimes it's hard. You don't see, if you follow us, like you don't see me a lot on the Instagram and stuff. Daniel does a lot of the explainers, the reels. He's really good at it. I'm not that good at it. So you can go to people's podcasts, and that is where the podcast host, I think, can bring people in. For instance, we had the governor of North Carolina on. Name drop, Josh Stein. He came to our studio, and there's a lot of hot topics that people want to hear us ask these questions. But if you do that out the gate, he's instantly going to come up. He's going to be governor. He's aware, and he's always aware, right? Yeah. He's a politician. But we started out with he was a state championship soccer player in high school.
Yeah.
And so we started talking with that, and you just felt him come out, and we became one of the boys with him.
Yeah.
And that just really opened him up. And so I think a lot of it does with the technique of the host, but also if you go onto a podcast, roll with it. Like just go. For the most part, they're not always live. And if you hated it, I don't know if you make people sign things to do it, but they're not always
we didn't
live.
make you sign anything.
No, you did not. No, we just dove right in. Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that and just say, my dad ran for office for state level office, and he's very introverted and you know, was very intimidated by the idea of having to go out and shake hands and kiss babies and all that.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, as his campaign manager.
It's a whole different show. We can talk about father, son, campaign manager.
Yeah.
That would be
we just what we came out of that experience with is tell stories. It's not about really running for office is not really about policy.
Yeah.
It's about stories.
Yeah.
And it's about hearing other people's stories that you meet along the way. Listening is more important than talking as a candidate, right?
And as a human.
And as a human being, of course, right? So
Yeah.
listening to stories, and then when it comes time when the mic is in front of you, I think talking points are intimidating, but stories are very human. And so, always, never send a statistic to do a stories job.
That's right.
So just find the stories that are your why, whether it's local, state, or federal, and just hone those stories on the campaign trail. Treat it like open mic. You're going to go to an open mic. You want to practice your bit, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and fill that bit with 2 or 3 stories.
Yeah,
11% of people would say that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's a statistic. I love. Well, thank you guys so much for being with us. Thanks for what you're doing in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And if people are not listening to Hometown Holler, you need to do that.
Well, I just want to say before we go, thank you for what you're doing.
Yes.
Because this is this is a real meeting of the minds. Looking at the guest roster for who you guys have brought to Raleigh, it is national talent, and it is like the next generation. It's people who, like, in 5 years, 10 years, I will be like telling my friends, like, yeah, I was at a conference with that guy.
Yeah.
And before he was president.
Yeah.
Why'd y'all choose Raleigh this go round?
We are always trying to find places that are doing interesting things to take away from. So North Carolina, you guys have got a lot going on. First of all, everything you said, microcosm for the country, right? Very few true swing states left. You've got to be delivering results, I think, here to do well. And so then obviously Mayor Cowell from Raleigh and Mayor Williams from Durham are both New Deal leaders. Josh Stein was a New Deal leader. I'll do my mic drop with Josh Stein. So, and Jeff Jackson, and just have a really, Jay Chaudhry, lots of Zeb Smathers, have a really good group of New Dealers who are here. And then we just thought there was a lot to point to. All the, you guys are so great. I think ranked #1 in business, #1 just recently in workforce development, doing a lot of really interesting things on housing. So we're excited to learn from y'all.
Excellent.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
An Honorable Profession is a New Deal Leaders podcast. And because we keep things honorable, no tax dollars were used in the making of this podcast.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group.